Greetings, students. This is Professor Jacques, always endeavoring to provide for you opportunities to learn about applying the things that we're learning about in class by hearing from folks who are doing the work. So I'm really excited for this Voices from the Field opportunity to involve an interview with a dear friend and a colleague, Stephanie Warner Mace from United Way, Dallas. Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining me.
Yes, so great to see you.
It's always good to see you, friend. And I'm really excited for you to share with my students the work that you're doing. So I'm going to put myself on mute. Will you tell us about your title and then your role and responsibilities at United Way?
Yes. So Stephanie Mace, I am VP of Strong Communities at United Way of Dallas. My role is very vague, but the majority of my work is focused on advocacy and public policy. So looking at how public policies impact the community, and by advocating for positive change, we can move forward in advancing the policy or the community that we are wanting to build collectively.
So that's exciting. I didn't know that you're now a VP. Congratulations.
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome. What are some of the initiatives that you're addressing in this role and some of the things at United Way that fall under your responsibility? Because most people know United Way is like this fundraising arm that awards grants to nonprofits, but it sounds like you do something a bit different.
Yes. So I am actually the only full-time public policy person at kind of throughout the state of Texas at a local United Way. So thankfully my United Way sees the value in having a full-time person focused on tracking public policy and at all levels of government. The goal is to really engage both our donors, our service providers, our volunteers, and the community at large at educating them on public policies, how public policies impact our community, and to really try and mobilize the community around advocating for change. So one of the initiatives that you know very well is that over the past 10 years, I have been working with a lot of local partners to advocate for changes and reasonable reform to payday and auto title lending. In the state of Texas, payday lending is very unique across the country. Every state has different rules. And in the state of Texas, we kind of have a very unique model where it's a third-party lending system, where there is a special category within our finance code that allows credit service organizers to broker loans between what is traditionally a payday lending institution and a customer. So the traditional payday lending institution is capped at 10% APR, while the CSO, the actual arranger for the loans, have unlimited or able to charge unlimited fees. And so in the state of Texas, we commonly have individuals that are charged between 300% and 500% APR for payday and auto title loans. And 16% of individuals that take out an auto title loan actually have their car repossessed. So when we are advocating and trying to get people on the road to economic mobility and self-sufficiency, a struggle is if they are needing immediate cash. Go to a payday lending location, or an auto title lending location, and their car is repossessed. That prevents them from going to work. That prevents them from having a social network. And so we've also realized that a large portion of our money that we were hoping to really help put people on the road for success, either through financial emergency assistance or any type of kind of grants, a large portion has been going to these payday and auto title lenders. So my role has been to work at the state and local level to advocate for change. And back in 2011, back with your professor and multiple different nonprofits in the city of Dallas, we were able to work with the Dallas City Council to adopt an ordinance that actually required payday and auto title lenders to assess a borrower's ability to repay, which isn't currently being done or wasn't being done. It caps the amount of money that they're able to take out on these loans to, I think it's around 20%. It also, and then there's also a percentage based on their annual income. And then it also limits the number of renewals or installment loans. So while individuals are paying a fee continuously to continue to renew or extend these loans, and we're never actually paying down the principal. So the city ordinance capped the renewals at 3 renewals, or broke it up into 4 installments and limited it 4 installments. That was back in 2011, and thankfully other cities saw the value of this ordinance, and since then, with the support of a lot of the folks that advocated for the original Dallas ordinance back in 2011, 44 other cities have adopted the ordinance. So now more than 10 million individuals in the state of Texas are covered by this uniform payday lending ordinance. We are seeing huge improvements. And what's really challenging in the state of Texas is that we don't actually collect information on the number of individuals that borrow or use these payday and auto title loans. And we only collect quarterly data, and it's only for quarterly data on the number of new loans. So we don't have a good understanding of the number of individuals that pay back a loan and continue to renew it into a different quarter, or the number of individuals that are taking out a loan and then on the next day taking out another loan. So we don't know the number of loans an individual has at any one time. So there's a lot of challenge with the data. So we are continuing to advocate for that, but we have seen small incremental change. In the state of Texas, we have been pushing to make the city ordinance uniform throughout the state, and have seen a lot of challenges along the way. It is a very powerful lobby in our state, and there have been a lot of challenges around local versus state issues in Austin. And so we're seeing a lot of preemption of city ordinances around grocery bag ordinances, around fracking ordinances. So we are, for most legislative sessions, having to play defense to ensure that our ordinance does not fall within the parameters of most of the bills that require some type of preemption. I think what's very interesting about payday and auto title lending is that there's such a wide range of different stakeholders that have really taken hold of this issue. So nonprofits, hopefully, I don't know if you can hear a baby in the background, but nonprofits, of course, are advocating on behalf of their clients and do a great job of sharing their stories. But we're also seeing a lot of faith groups, a wide range of different faith groups coming together and using their Bibles, their Torah, all of their religious documents, and to show that usury and taking advantage of the poor is wrong, and have been very active and collectively developing a movement to really push back against kind of the very interesting big business climate that we have in the state of Texas.
Thank you so much for sharing about an issue that I'm sure most people don't even know is so important to thinking about the economic well-being of communities and inequity, access to loans that are affordable, access to even bank accounts. So will you talk a little bit about why this is an issue of inequity and how these lenders strategically target certain folks?
Yes. So we are seeing that the majority of these storefronts are in low income communities, also in communities where there are high rates of minorities, Hispanic and African American, and they really prey and target on this population. We see it as an inequity issue, like you said. They are also, some would say, in cahoots with big banks. So big banks are not going into these areas, and so payday and auto title lending locations are traditionally are seen as, in some cases, the financial institutions for a lot of these communities, unfortunately. It is, I'm trying to think of, repeat your question again. I don't think I fully answered it.
No, you're doing great. Yeah, it's really understanding why this is a pervasive issue with the population that it's pervasive with.
And it goes back to kind of the development of a lot of the policies in our communities and in our nation. A lot of banking institutions have not traditionally focused or prioritized kind of minority communities. And so these are payday and auto title lending, and some of the pawn shops and a lot of these other horrible high interest institutions are kind of the stores that have really built strong community connection. And so unfortunately, these are institutions that have been around possibly for generations. And so, and they're kind of easy and convenient, even though they charge high interest rates for incorrect reasons and make up tons of incorrect philosophies or reasons why they're charging these high interest rates. It is really expanding the inequities in our community, and really taking and stealing the wealth of individuals that are using these loans. And so the interest is so high, and really catch up individuals that are using these loans in a cycle of debt that they're unable to get out of. And just actually, we hear from a lot of case managers and clients that these are just something that they will continue to have to pay for months on end, not thinking and believing that they'll ever be able to get out of it, because it is so detrimental to their credit and their life.
It's a powerful issue, and you mentioned that you've been working on it since 2011. So you're coming up on like 8 years of advocating around this issue. What drew you to it? Why work on this? Why are you passionate about it?
I think it's just the injustice, how it is so unethical and so immoral that a company that we see on every corner and is taking advantage of individuals. It's legal. It's legal kind of theft. And I love kind of your former boss had a very powerful quote, and of course I can never do justice, about how it kind of is like a pig that's wearing lipstick, and I can't remember the exact phrase, but he was always saying that is pretty much like I can't even remember the phrase right now. I was going to say like a whorehouse kind of that's dressed up to look like a church, I think is what he used to say. But it is really taking advantage and immoral. And I just can't even imagine how there are thousands of employees out there that can sleep at night knowing what they do. One of the experiences that to try and help and encourage our volunteers and donors to become more aware of the issue is by having a secret shopper, where we would train individuals, a lot of our major donors who have never experienced this type of service, who are used to traditional financial institutions like banks and are used to a contract and are able to read and I wouldn't say understand, but have a contract that's laid out in front of them that they're able to read before they sign the dotted line. We would educate them on the rules, both at the state and federal level, around these loans, and then have them go into these storefronts and pose as potential borrowers. And there's just some of the practices, how I know when I went in a couple of times, one time I posed as a student and they wanted me to roll over thousands of dollars of student debt into kind of a payday loan, and all of the conniving things that they would say, and knowing that you're not able to see a contract before you sign it, knowing that a lot of the information and the APR that's listed on that contract is incorrect. Sometimes that they don't even require or have a contract in the borrower's native language or the language that they're communicating in. So many injustices and so many things that are just horribly wrong, and nobody else seemed to be talking about it. And so it's continued to be a passion that why aren't we able to stop this industry, knowing that they are doing so much wrong in our communities, and under not knowing how pervasive this issue is. And it's while they really target and families that are make $30,000 to $500,000, I'm sorry, $30,000 to $50,000 a year, you will see that there are also these storefronts in Highland Park or River Oaks, depending upon where you're from, kind of the really wealthy areas. And you see individuals coming up in Jaguars and BMWs. And it is a, people get used to a lifestyle in some cases, and this is their way of either caring and finding some way to pay any of their activities, and waiting, to try and get money till the next pay period. But it is individuals that in a lot of cases don't know what they're getting into. A lot of teachers, grandparents, we're seeing a huge amount of grandparents that either have grandkids that are living with them and need to purchase school supplies, or I had a grandmother or an elderly lady who took out an auto title loan for an air conditioning unit, and then her car was repossessed, and she called crying because she didn't have anywhere to go, and her car was her connection to the world. She used her car to even drive to her mailbox. She used her car to get to church. She used her car to go to the grocery store. She was now isolated and wasn't able to get the things that she needed. And so the car is so important to so many individuals. And so that is so many reasons of why I'm so passionate about this issue. And I think it's an issue that a lot of people have gotten discouraged because we've seen movement at the state level. We've also seen so much during the Obama administration with the development of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and proposed rules by the CFPB that would help kind of tackle some of these main challenges that we're seeing in Texas and throughout the country. But unfortunately, those have been rolled back. There have been changes to the CFPB, change in leadership. And so I think it's really easy to get discouraged. So, I want to make sure that this issue does not drop. And so continuing to move forward, hopefully we're going to, all of the large urban areas in Texas have passed a payday lending ordinance except for Fort Worth. And so that is going to be my target during this next interim. So if you have any connections in Fort Worth, let me know. And it's all about, really connecting with community influencers, connecting with churches. And churches are a great way to really put pressure and to mobilize their network, particularly through social media, to get to key elected officials that are able to see the value of making change and doing what's right for their community.
So I love the way that you've called us to action. You've asked us to be a part of this work. I'm curious though, how do you convince people who, one, don't even know this is happening, and two, don't realize that they can do something to address it? What do you say? What's your elevator speech that brings people into the fold to help you do this work?
I'm really bad at the elevator speech, but I think it's really just kind of finding kind of an in with, depending upon what they say. So it's educating them on that it's the majority of users are actually hardworking individuals, and they are in some cases needing money for their kids or for healthcare, that they are wanting to pay back these loans. They're not trying to duck out of it, but it is kind of just that cycle of debt that they get caught up in. Kind of talking I think it's also great to talk about the traditional loans that they're used to and how different these loans are, that they are assessed, they look at their credit score, they assess their ability to repay, and these loans do none of that. They do not help build somebody's credit. It actually, all it can do is be harmful to their credit, and actually just sucks money out of the economy. So I think it is a $1 or $2, $3 billion business in Texas. This industry actually takes out more fees and refinances from the economy, rather than takes out more fees and renewals than loans. And it is actually it is just so harmful to the economy, and that people need a way to access credit. Everybody needs a way to access credit, but this is not a practice that sets both the borrower and the lender up for success. And that's all that we're wanting to do. We do not want to close down this industry. We just want to better regulate them.
Really, really powerful language to use as we try to win folks over to our side, join Secrets Shopper, help
Yes.
address this issue in its home base in Fort Worth. So
Yes, thank you for adding that very important point, that Fort Worth and Irving are two large cities right outside of Dallas that have two of the largest payday lending companies headquartered in those cities. And those are the two cities we haven't been able to get an ordinance in, but this interim we are going to try and get both.
I love it. So I heard you when you said you've been at this for a long time. What do you do to stay fueled and motivated? How do you digest I saw your face when you're talking about how passionate you are about addressing this injustice. Like, what keeps you going and what keeps you fueled when the journey is long?
That's a great question, because we have had a lot of setbacks. It is hearing another person that has taken out these loans, knowing another person that has interested in advocating for this issue, and the passion that they see in their eyes, that they think that we can overcome and that we can do a better job collectively. I think it's every time that we have a strategic planning session. I love strategic planning sessions and coming up with a new strategy. It is talking to a new elected official that wasn't aware of this issue and is open to pushing either legislation or ordinance. And sometimes it's those setbacks that also really encourage you. And it's a wide range of different things. I think it's also, going out into the community and hearing that people are still using these loans, and in trying to do what we can to make sure that more people can be protected.
Brilliant. So I imagine that there are ways, because there's an undertone, a narrative, right? That folks that these organizations are targeting don't deserve better options.
Correct.
They're not worthy of traditional options, right? And so that narrative is something that is so pervasive that this industry has grown really, really large, really, really quickly and unapologetically. So what are ways in your own life that you're taking steps to disrupt narratives of who's worthy and who's not? And how do you incorporate that into your work?
So it seems like what I do and some of the challenges that I've experienced at work. I think we are working at United Way. It is challenging because a lot of individuals see you only as a nonprofit for the wealthy or for the white or those that are privileged. And so I strive to better connect united way and ensure that we are truly working hand in hand with the entire community, particularly doing a better job of connecting to South Dallas, connecting to the African American community, the Hispanic community, and seeing what we can do to actually, when we develop programs, make sure that we are developing programs that the community wants rather than forcing it or bringing it in a program that they are not interested in. Kind of going to thinking, using design thinking, where you are pulling together individuals that are in the community to get their thoughts on their needs, what they really want, and developing a program that really is customized to their needs. Part of I think the journey to get to a better point with our work is truly understanding that we are disconnected from our community in some cases because we live probably in the wealthier areas. We do not always go back. We're also seeing within our organization that we are predominantly white, while the demographics of Dallas is definitely changing and the white population is drastically declining. So I have been, with another colleague or two, really been pushing equity training within our organization. And I think that's a new trend, or maybe not even new, but it's definitely, the philanthropic community is definitely, and large foundations are doing a better job of knowing that they have to work on themselves internally before they can really better connect with the community that they're trying to serve. And so pushing racial equity training within our organization by bringing in brilliant speakers like your professor to come talk about the work that is being done in other communities, to really understand the policies, the history of the policies that have created the disparities within our community and racial inequity within our community. So looking at redlining, looking at education policies throughout the decades, and segregation, and all of those different policies to really understand why we are where we are today. The city of Dallas is one of the most racially and economically segregated community, and has, of course, one of the largest racial gaps. So doing a better job of really educating our community on the past to really make sure that we can better address and are authentic in the way that we talk, that we are not trying to just place a Band-Aid, but trying to make systemic long-term changes in our community and the work that we're doing.
Brilliant. Well, this has been incredibly enlightening and powerful to think about the way you are centering justice in the work that you're doing. I'm going to wrap it up. That's the last question that I have, but I would love to hear from you. Are there any aha moments, any things that you think it would be really useful for our students to read or watch as they continue their education journey to learning how to center justice in the helping profession?
I start my day by always reading policy journal. Well, it's not really a policy journal, but just news and nonpartisan policy media outlets to see what's going on. I think it's very important to stay up to date. Understanding, I think, politics and policies are essential to making changes, so understanding the dynamics of what went on behind a policy decision, and really knowing that there are so many external factors that come into play in creating and pushing a policy change. And so you always have to have like that, be at that right point to really push a policy change. And so sometimes the best time for you to push a policy is unexpected because of something that's happened in the news. And I would just say continue to learn, continue to listen, ask questions, listen to the stories of your clients and other individuals in the community, people that you meet on the bus, and try to make sure that you break out of your silos.
Brilliant.
No, not brilliant, but thank you.
It is brilliant. It's something that not everybody is doing. And so I just celebrate that you are realizing and recognizing the self-work process and bringing that to your work and helping your colleagues bring that to their work as well. The United Way is such a powerful and big institution in Dallas. It shapes conversations, it drives policy. You're a part of leading that effort. So it is brilliant. And I want to celebrate that. And thank you so much for your time. We appreciate
Well, thank you. I appreciate you and the support and resource that you've been to me over the years. And so thank you so much for allowing me to talk today about the work that I'm doing. And if anybody makes it back to Texas, let me know if you're interested in advocating. Always stay connected to advocacy organizations so you know when there's a critical time for you to speak up.
Brilliant. Everybody in this class is in Dallas, so I will be sure if it's okay.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay. Well, send them my email if they're interested in talking about payday lending.
Absolutely. I'll post it when I post the video. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Have a good night. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.